Hello everyone, my name is AJ, and I haven't come up with a good intro yet. Yesterday, as of writing this script, Hazbin's design for Abel was released, and I hate it. So fueled by anger, disappointment, dissatisfaction, and an insatiable greed for that tasty ad revenue, I simply had no choice but to redesign him, and I figured while I'm at it, I'll do Peter too. For those who don't know, I have an AU called the Bed and Breakfast for Former Baddies, so I've already designed all the other characters. If you want to see that video, it's in a playlist and it'll be at the end of the video. My biggest problem out of all of the problems I have, which are many, with Abel's design, is his demographic. I hate that he's white, and I even more hate that he's blonde. Abel being white and blonde pretty much confirms that Hazbin's Eve is also white and blonde, and I don't like that. And this gives me the feeling that the mark of Cain is going to be dark skin, which is extremely problematic, considering it was the theory that was used to justify slavery in the US, and I don't like it. I think him being blonde also just looks bad in terms of design. All of his colors are very light without very much contrast, so there's nothing pulling your eyes up to his face. Him being blonde also means that Adam is carrying a recessive blonde gene, but Adam doesn't have any parents, so why on earth would he have a recessive blonde gene? It doesn't make sense to me. I'm sure that could happen. And, you know, just for the record, I don't think I'm a better designer than VivziePop. I do. But, I don't think I'm better than the professionals, and this is really the first design that I've ever, just hated, because most of the other designs I actually don't have a problem with. In fact, including Adam, I hated it vehemently when I first saw him without the mask, but I've grown to love him, and I'm sure I'll probably grow to have a soft spot in my heart for this design too, but as of right now, I do not appreciate it. Some people have speculated that Abel is Eve and Lucifer's kid. Abel does have some ringleader vibes going on with his outfit, so I can see how some people would think this, but that still leaves us with a white Eve, because this boy does not have a speck of melanin in him. He doesn't even have a tan. I don't really subscribe to that theory, because Cain is older than Abel in the Bible, so Lucifer would have had to leave hell in order to get with Eve again, or alternatively, have gotten with Eve multiple times before he and Lilith were kicked to the curb. Both of those timelines are extremely convoluted and don't make sense to me, so I don't believe that theory. There's also a theory that Abel is Adam and Lilith's kid, which I like better and does make slightly more sense, but it still doesn't hold water because, again, Cain is older than Abel. So unless Cain doesn't exist or they switched it around so that Abel is older than him, I don't really believe this either. And they don't mention in the opening narration that they had any children in Eden, and I feel like that would be very strange for them to have had children in Eden and then just not mention it. I'm sorry, I really can't get over him being a blonde white boy. There's something about it that just feels really icky to me. With Peter being turned into a blonde white twink, Alistair having straight hair and a frankly pathetic tan, and most of our other implied POC characters being gray, there's just something about this that doesn't pass the sniff test for me. It almost feels like whitewashing, and this is coming from someone who hates blackwashing race swaps. I really hate it when people change the race of pre-existing characters without good reason, or put diversity where it doesn't belong without justifying it within universe. Like in Rings of Power, when they made some of the dwarves black. That level of diversity doesn't make sense. Realistically, the dwarves should have bred themselves into ethnic homogeneity. I hope I said that right. Forever ago. They should all look the same. They could have easily fixed this break in immersion by saying that the black dwarves used to live on the surface but retreated underground within the most recent 100 years or so. This would imply to the viewer, oh, they had to adapt to have more melanin in their skin to protect them from the sun. And it would have fixed the immersion breaking stuff. I'm sorry, random tangents are gonna be the theme of today's video. My only consolation here with Abel's design is that he's chunky. That is the only good part about him. The design would be fine, not great, but fine, if this was anyone other than Abel, but it isn't. I'm sure you could have deduced from my rant that I'm making him African. I've already designed both Adam and Eve in a way that I think could realistically create every variation of human with time, except for redheads who are just gonna have to appear through, like, some random mutations later on down the line. You know, it's not unheard of for that to happen. So designing Abel from that was really easy. Just take these two characters, smush them together, and boom, baby. I had actually designed Abel way before this just for fun. I didn't think I'd actually get to use him. I am cautiously excited for him, everything else considered. Since this is Vivzi's writing, we can pretty much already guess based on his appearance that he's got daddy issues and is probably gay, so I'm curious about that. Based on previous experience though, she's probably going to go the most predictable, simple, and least interesting route for said daddy issues, so let's remember, don't get too excited. We don't know very much about Bible Abel except that he was a shepherd and the father was pretty chill with his sacrifices. Also, he got mega murdered by Cain, so wah wah. I knew for certain that I wanted him to be chunky. When I first designed him, I made him chunky like Hazbin's Adam. I was sad to abandon the body type when I first designed my Adam, so I thought using it for Abel would be a good way to bring it back in, and it lined up better than I could have predicted. I wanted him to look very sheep-like, so I thought I would make him extra super fluffy. I also gave him a horn similar to Eve's. I have just been informed as of writing the script that Abel's halo is bent, probably because he got murdered. Epic. That does make me like him better. I think it makes him more interesting to look at. If only the colors of his design weren't so similar, so I could have actually seen it. I put a big beam of light over top of where he got pummeled. I've kept it as a pretty consistent theme in my designs that a person's scars usually stay, but they get turned into something beautiful when they're in heaven. Adam's facial scars, for example, turned blue. I think that Abel's scars probably looked pretty dang nasty, so I put a light show over top of his. For his outfit, I learned into his almost caveman origins and gave him just a skirt. I don't think he would be very comfortable wearing modern clothes or even just shirts just at all. Like, look at him. Look at how big he is. Why would he ever wear a shirt if he doesn't have to? I put a slit in his top skirt so you can see the other one underneath. For his colors, I decided on a palette of greens, oranges, and yellows for kindness, charity, and diligence as his virtues, kindness being his main virtue. I gave gradients to both skirts and put some patterning on the top one for extra detail. I did hold back on the patterns a bit from the first design to keep him animator friendly. I made his wings real small because I thought it would be cute. Even if Abel can fly, I don't think he would do that very often. He seemed like the kind of guy who would just walk. I think it would also be cute if he was scared of heights. I made his halo a simple bronze band with a little thing in the middle. I was going to make it simple steel, but I thought bronze would fit his color palette better, and a vote in my Discord agreed with me. I think Abel would continue to be a simple shepherd just hanging out and living his best life. I think he would be kind of shy and jumpy. There isn't much more I can write for him right now because I don't know how Abel is intended to be used or what his personality is like, other than gay almost for certain. I guess I could be wrong about that though. Please, if you know any spoilers, please do not put them in the comments. I will delete your comment if you do, and I will also be very mad at you if you spoil anything for me. Really happy with this design. I think he turned out very cute. Moving on to Peter. This is one I've been intending to do for a while. I like Peter's design, but not for this character. This is very blatantly not a Jewish fisherman. I think the curl is cute and the colors are mostly fine, but the way he acts, the extremely pale skin, and being freaking blonde just doesn't fit here. I've heard rumors that this isn't the St. Peter, but I'm not sure how much I believe that, and frankly, I don't care. So I pretty much had to throw nearly everything away and start from scratch. I used the actor that plays Simon Peter in The Chosen as a reference. I really love The Chosen. It's a flawed series, but I really like it, and it's solidified in my brain what Peter and Matthew and a lot of the other apostles look and act like. It's very well written, especially in early seasons, and I really recommend it. The first episode is a little dark though, so be prepared for that. I'm never gonna actually get to make a video about The Chosen dedicated because I don't think it would get any attention. So I'm just gonna put my one criticism of it, my one major criticism of it here right now. I think the way they have Peter acting in some of the later seasons is a little out of character from what we've seen from the Bible. So there's that. I kind of wish the other apostles got a little bit more attention too, instead of it just being the Peter and Jesus show. But, that's not that big a deal. It's still a good show, even if it's flawed. I was extremely unsure of how to dress him. There aren't exactly any pictures from back then, and I don't know enough about Jewish culture to even begin to know what to Google. I did my best to research, but I just didn't know what to do. I didn't want to pull an ignorant white woman and accidentally dress him in traditional Jewish woman garb on accident or something. I thought about using the Pharisees from The Chosen as a reference because their outfits are really cool and very well researched. I would think that he would want to wear something traditional of his culture, but I just didn't feel good about it, so I ultimately made the decision to put him in a cassock instead. He was one of the earliest Christians to ever live ever, so this is still a part of his culture, even if the garment wasn't created until at least 100 years after his time. I found a couple references of cassocks that I thought were pretty nifty and cool, so I took them and mashed them together. I gave him this shoulder cloak thing on top of the usual cassock with a decorative scarf thing. I don't know what you would call it. I also put 2 lengths of fabric, again, don't know what you would call those, going down from the belt almost to the ground. I made it floor length so I don't have to draw feet. Life hack for y'all. I put buttons going all the way down in the middle. I decided later when I was coloring to get rid of the most of those buttons to make it more animator friendly. At the chest, I tried to give him a subtle upside down cross motif. Peter was crucified upside down because he didn't feel comfortable dying the same way the Savior did. He didn't feel worthy of it, I think was the wording. It probably killed him quicker, but also probably sucked more. I was a little scared of doing the hair and face, so I took a bit of a break to design his keys instead. The symbol of St. Peter in traditional Christian artwork is 2 crossed keys for the gate, so I thought, why not? Let's Kingdom Hearts this crap. I don't know anything about Kingdom Hearts, don't ask me. I just know that there's this one character that has a big key as a weapon or something. I actually really love drawing objects. The key to designing good objects is to design them like you're designing a character. Just because something can't talk or move or do anything doesn't mean it can't have a personality or be a character. Think about how often in horror media that a setting can become a character. It's incredible, honestly. Knowing how something functions can also really help you figure out how to simplify it into your style and customize it to suit your needs. I've actually studied locks and keys before, not extensively, but enough to know generally what to keep and what I can remove. The important part of a key is the teeth. The teeth, when inserted into the lock, can turn the tumblers or push the pins down depending on what type of lock you're using. The most common type of key is the one-sided key that we all know and have probably used. There are also keys that are mostly symmetrical, like car keys that have little notches in them that break the symmetry. I did a little extra Googling and found that perfectly symmetrical keys do exist, they're just not as common. I would imagine they're probably not as secure, but I have no evidence to back that up, that's just what I would think. The other important part of the key is the grip up at the top. You're going to need that in order to get the leverage to turn the key. Since Peter's key is so big, I needed to put gaps in it for him to get his hands around it. This also had the intended side effect of being really cool. Nothing else super mattered, so I had free reign from there to make whatever I wanted. I kept a lot of the Ithacanthus theming in there, which is this fish symbol. It was used as a symbol for Christianity until for whatever reason we shifted to the cross instead. The Ithacanthus was used for early Christians to communicate with each other back when it was outlawed. My roommate told me that they used it to meet up with each other. You were supposed to go the opposite way that it was pointing. That might be wrong, But I thought that was cool anyway. I put 6 wings on it because it was probably issued to Peter from the Seraphim. The bottom pair of wings are used as the teeth, the top 2 are just to be cute. I also added a sphere of floating something or other in between the fins on both the top and bottom fish. Once I got that designed, I blew it up and put 2 cross keys on his back. Now we finally get to his face. I struggled. I kept making the eye either too big or too small. I almost redrew the head, thinking that was what was messing me up, but it didn't make it better, so I went back to the first sketch of the head and kept trying until I got it right. I really wanted to add a nose so he would look more like the actor, but I just could not. Heaven has more strict design philosophies than hell does for the bodies of its humans, so no nose. I tried to copy his hair as close as I could. It ended up looking way more like an emo anime boy than I ever imagined. but whatever, I guess. I tried to keep Hazbin's Peter curl in there somewhere by turning it into a horn. I think it looks a little strange, especially after I colored it in, but I'm not going to change it. At least for now. Maybe I'll fix it and make it different when I go into the tweaking phase for these other designs, like I did for all the main characters. I tried to make his wings the same shape as the ones on his key, which worked well enough. I gave him the same golden halo that Adam has because I'm pretty sure he was a prophet at one point. I could be wrong though. For his main virtue, I decided on purple, which is humility, because of the way that he chose to die. I also went with a very light orange for his accent color. The particular shades and tints I went with look very blue and yellow, so thanks color theory. I did want to keep Peter's original blue and yellow palette, so I guess I almost did that. I just shifted it over and made it a little darker. The orange that I used is actually color picked directly from Hazbin's Peter, the orange part of his sleeves. Yeah, the darkest color on Hazbin's Peter is the lightest color on mine. His wings were kind of hard to do. I wanted to give them some detail too, but it eluded me, so I had to just do like some simple gradients with a few flecks of orange at the bottom. I might have to change his wings in later tweaks, but this is what I have for now. I used the same palette for the key, but with more gold from his halo, so they looked connected. Getting the facial hair wasn't super easy for me either, but I got it after a little bit of fiddling. I shaded all the metal and he was all done. I think Peter's role at the gate would be to be kind of like a bouncer, not for heaven's safety, but for the safety of anyone stupid enough to try and break in. No unclean thing can enter the kingdom of God, so if any sinner were able to sneak in, they would burn up and be permanently destroyed. So Peter has to beat them up for their own good. I thought it would be fun if he had a partner to work with. In my sect, we almost always work in pairs. 2 missionaries, 2 teachers to a room, preferably 2 parents, that kind of thing. I don't know why we do that in every single instance of it happening, but we're of the opinion that there should always be 2. So I thought I would put a second apostle at the gate with Peter, and who better to pair him up with than Matthew? Matthew used to be a tax collector named Levi before Jesus added him to his quorum and changed his name. Combine this with the way that the book of Matthew is written, and we can make some pretty good guesses about his personality. The way that his book is written is very analytical. His chapter was written with the Jews in mind more than anyone else. A huge focus is on all of the prophecies that were fulfilled by Jesus' coming. For example, there was a prophecy that the Messiah would be a descendant of King David, so there was a really long section tracing back his genealogy. The Chosen depicts Matthew as being somewhere on the autism spectrum, which I think was a really good route to take. Something I really love about The Chosen is the disability rep. There's another apostle in there, I think it was the smaller James, that has some sort of physical disability. Jesus chose not to heal them, and though it was controversial and maybe a little out of care for in-person Jesus, I think it was super powerful. I'm disabled myself, and though I know God could heal me at any time, he hasn't, and might not until the resurrection. That's a story that so many disabled saints have had to deal with, and I think it's a super important spiritual message to spread. Sometimes you need to have faith to be healed, and sometimes you need to have faith when you're not. He doesn't cure Matthew's autism either, and I think that's also good. As someone who's on the autism spectrum myself, I mean, probably, I haven't actually been tested, but I'm pretty dang sure. We don't want to be cured. We like ourselves the way we are. We don't want our personalities to be changed to fit into what's normal. We just want to understand and be understood. All the other symptoms could go, though. I don't think anyone likes being overstimulated or being able to feel their own bones underneath their skin. that kind of stinks. All this to say, watch The Chosen, it's good. So yeah, I think you can easily guess, even if you haven't seen The Chosen, that I used Matthew's actor as a reference. I chose to use the clean-shaven version because he was clean-shaven before he gave up everything to follow Christ. I gave him a simple white underrobe with a coat on top of that and a pair of Roman sandals. I looked up how Matthew died, but no one's sure how exactly it happened, only that it was almost definitely a martyr. I took the 4 options I found and had my Discord vote, and we chose beheading. Just like I did with Carmilla, I gave him a floating head. I wasn't sure what was around his neck in the reference, and now that his head isn't on his shoulders anymore, it felt more than right to include something around the neck to cover that up. I decided on a more modern scarf with 2 extra long tails for style. I gave him 4 small horns, similar to Vaggies, but not exactly the same. For colors, I decided on moderation and chastity. I thought it would be a nice combination of colors. We can also get a little bit of Peter's cyan this way, so we technically do have both the yellowy orange and cyan, even if they're split between characters. Honestly, choosing a person's virtue is way harder than choosing a sin. With sin, at the very least, if I can't figure out what their sin falls into exactly, I can always go with pride. Because pride is the root of all sin, so if you do something bad that doesn't really seem like it would be any of the other particular 7 deadly sins, it'll be pride. Moderation is blue and chastity is cyan, so his color palette ended up being very cool and wintry. I also picked his skin color from the reference directly, because, picking a skin color is hard. I wanted to add some patterns into the coat that were inspired by my reference. I really like the Chosen Matthew's outfit. You can tell that it's a much more expensive garment than the simple brown tunics that the other apostles have, but it's also subtle enough that it's not distracting. It's covered in embroidered stripes with yellow dots on the stripes, which makes it really not animator friendly, so I couldn't translate it directly. I took the general idea and simplified it a lot. I put a big color block with a stripe underneath with some dots on it of the same color, but significantly fewer than the original outfit to make it easier to redraw. I put that pattern on his shoulders, the bottom of the coat, the sleeves, and around the waist. I did the same thing with his wings, which I think turned out super cool. I was going to do the same pattern on his scarf, but I didn't like the way it turned out, so I made the scarf black with a blue gradient at the bottom and filled it full of stars. I also turned his hair fully black and put stars in there too. I think if I were animating this, I would go the chowder route for the star pattern, where the characters move over top of a still image, almost as if their bodies are transparent over top of a patterned gradient. That way we don't need to worry about keeping the placement of the stars consistent. I would do the same thing with God. I have no reason for why I put the stars on him, I just thought it would be cool. I changed his line art to a dark blue and worked on the halo. From my research, Matthew was never a prophet, so I'm giving him just a regular apostle's halo, a silver version of Eve's halo. From my research, Matthew was born between 6 and 4 BC, so I put the birth date smack in the middle. No one's sure when exactly he died, so I just wrote unclear for that. Matthew's job would be to keep track of the names, ages, and kingdoms of everyone who gets into heaven. I think this would be a perfect job for him, since he did pretty similar things when he was a tax collector. I really like this design. I think it's my favorite one for this video. Thank you everyone so much for watching. Look at this fan art. I'm going to be 20 years old on the 6th, so that's pretty exciting. Maybe for my present you could sub to my Patreon. Ha ha ha, wink wink, nudge nudge. I'm just joking. But if you want to do that anyway, I have a lot of cool stuff up there. I also have a Discord server you can join if you want to, and I take commissions. An extra special thank you goes out to my financial supporters, JRDS, Mercer Scott Holt, Stephen Drake, Jazz Bonnie, Jay Draws, and Silent Savvy. You're the greatest. Join me next week in a super cool video where I finally announce the tournament results. Bye-bye!